And we're live. Good evening, and welcome to the SoNo Show, episode 10. This will be the first stream of the year, and I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to have a very good friend with me, the infamous John Fashcroft, fresh off of his debate victory on the Ralph Retort on the Kill stream last night. How are you doing tonight, John?
I'm well, man. Thank you very much for the kind words. Dude, I'm really glad everybody I'm glad that worked out the way it was. I'd never done anything like that before, so I kind of had that little like a bit
The
of reservation,
butterflies.
yeah, about getting made an ass of, because these people do this. That's like what they do. They try to find shady debate tactics to twist people in knots. So I was
Oh,
I was
yeah.
glad I was able to fucking keep her on her back foot, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's man, I couldn't do debates, honestly, and I'll tell you the truth. That was the first Kill stream that I've actually ever watched. I've seen snippets of where like Dingo and some of those other guys go on them. I'm not really much for watching debates. I did enjoy the James Mason and Bob Larson debate. I guess it was about a month ago. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, you did really well. I couldn't do it. I would get too frustrated. I'd lose my shit. I don't think good under pressure either at times.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at fucking arguing, and I know these people are. We know these people are dishonest. You know what I mean? We know that what they're lying. So that's the way I looked at it. I didn't look at it as a debate. I had no interest in intellectually, jousting with her. I just wanted to bully these fucking people. Right? That's
Dude, and
all.
that's what you did. You came out aggressive. You kept her on the back foot. She tried. I know she tried to abate you that one time, but you was able to sidestep that shit. And it was so funny whenever it came to like facts and logic. She really just had that typical fluoride stare whenever confronted with these harsh realities.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts, is watching her just like fucking frantically trying to like figure out what to say next. She was flustered a lot. A lot.
Yeah,
It was funny, man. But yeah, it was fun.
it was very good. I listened to it on the way home from work today. It was a 3 hour debate, so I've still got like an hour and a half left.
Son
Let's
of a bitch. I
see.
didn't even realize we went for 3 hours.
I think it went 3 hours and 22 minutes. Last night
Shit.
I was only able to catch like bits and pieces because I was doing a variety of other things. But yeah, I'm tickled to death that you was able to come back on, John, and we could do part two of this series. In this series, guys, we're looking further into Beyond the Dutroux Affair, the reality of protected child abuse and snuff networks. This document was compiled by a researcher, a Belgian man by the name of Joel Vandenboyen. I'm going to go ahead and warn you all, if there's any Belgian people from Belgium watching this, we probably will butcher some of the names. In fact, I actually just learned this a couple of weeks ago. We've been pronouncing Dutroux incorrectly because over there in Belgium, see, I have a Flemish friend that I speak to once a week, and I was like, Hans, which way do we pronounce this? Is it Dutroux or Dutroux? And he's like, it's actually Dutroux. And I was like, oh wow, I feel like a real uneducated hillbilly right now. But
Oh, well, hell, I was just glad that was the only thing we butchered. I was sure that I just fucked up every word that I said that
ev-
wasn't.
I'm sure every name that is in this document we have butchered in some form, some fashion. But it's just how it is. It's how it is.
uh,
Oh man. You know what else was also interesting, John, is when we found out that archive.org had removed this document, shortly after we had done the stream. Um, it had been up for, several years. I'm not saying that my little small channel or anything had anything to do with it, but, obviously they're afraid of these things, coming to
well,
light, you could say.
I wouldn't be so sure that your small little channel didn't have something to do with it, because this is like the second time I've seen this, and I'm pretty sure we saw it again. Even I personally saw it again today. I could be wrong, but I know for a fact that when Dave Martell and I covered the Presidio child abuse scandal,
Oh, yes.
I read straight from Michael Aquino's Wikipedia about the Presidio child abuse charges, about the Temple of Set, all that. Now you can find the Temple of Set Wikipedia, but Michael Aquino's hyperlink is gone. You cannot find
Yeah.
anything about that dude. If you type in Michael Aquino now, it gives you some like weird like singer or like a violinist or some weird shit like that.
You know,
So
and you're not the only person I've heard that says this. I've heard a couple of other guys. I think it was in one of Apollonian Germ's Discord servers. This has been several months ago, but I remember one of those guys was speaking about how you can't find a lot of this information on Michael Aquino anymore. It's like, they went around and they did a scrub. They removed all this stuff. It's just pretty obvious, that they're interested in hiding this from, the masses, from people looking into it further. So you did you and Dave Martell did a series on or a stream about the Presidio child abuse case.
We actually covered a lot in that stream. We started with Presidio, and then we tied that to the Boys Town
the Franklin
incident,
child abuse.
the Franklin child abuse scandal, and we were even able to tie that back to the Finders documents and how they were all creating these little special schools, and these people were all connected to this pipeline that was taking these kids to Mexico to these special schools to torture
Finders
them.
Case. Yeah. I've been reading all of these are tied together in that Program to Kill, that book by Dave McGowan.
Dude, that has been blowing my mind, dude. That has been just absolutely. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not as bad with this stuff because like the pictures and stuff you have to look through. Reading this Dutroux Affair thing, they are fucking stomach turning.
Dude, but they are.
that whole deal was just as gruesome as this, man. It's just absolutely brutal shit, man, and it's unbelievable that there's a quote I was gonna save this for later, but I want to read this real quick, and this kind of sums it all up because I've had these conversations with my wife. Right? It says it's not uncommon for DID patients, which is dissociative identity disorder.
Yes.
So it says it's not uncommon for DID patients to give details about abuse that sounds so bizarre, horrifying, and huge that no matter what the evidence, will take some time and repeating for the average person to accept it as even a possibility. These things are so heinous. They're so violent and so just outlandish. Outlandish, that people refuse. Like Jane, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, she knows I'm not full of shit. She knows I'm not lying to her, but it's still, even knowing that, it's so hard for her to process that people sell their children into these things and take part in torturing their children and like sit there and watch their child be fucked by a dog and a snake. And you know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to believe that, but like, there's fucking photo evidence of it, dude.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of these degenerate families. They'll put their own children into it. That's what happened to X1, I believe, that we had talked about in the last stream. She was basically what you could consider the star witness, Regina Loof. Yeah, I think is how you pronounce it. But she was brought into this world by her grandmother, and I mean, it's like, what is it they call it? People, like, we were also talking at the end of the last stream about the numbers, about, how many children are, reported missing. A lot of these kids that are put into these by their own families, of course, they're not going to be reported missing. The fucking parents know where they're at. They're in there getting, I ain't even going to say it, but it's just fucking horrifying. It's absolutely crazy.
And that's another thing people are saying, like, oh, well, how come we don't have funerals? Or where are the dead kids at? Like, do you think they're going to fucking have a funeral for their child that they just gave up to a satanic cult to be brutally raped and killed and put on a snuff? You don't have a funeral for that. No. Not to be gruesome, but you dispose, you know what I mean? You dispose of that secretly.
Feed them to the pigs, bury them in the backyard,
whatever.
Like, it's just ridiculous.
There was that one guy, I can't remember his name right now, and I think he was actually in the States, that was tied to Dutroux, and they found a bunch of kids' bodies buried in his fucking yard. I can't remember his fucking name, but that is a thing. It happened.
Oh, yeah. And, I've been reading, I mentioned earlier, and the Program to Kill. It talks about MPD, which is multiple personality disorder, and dissociative identity disorder. These are two things that our intelligence agencies are very interested in. That's why the book's literally called Program to Kill. It's amazing how there's so many links between the CIA and a lot of infamous and extremely prominent serial killers over the decades here in the United States. They look at it as you put these children through this horrible trauma, abuse, sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and they develop the child will develop NPD or DID, and basically the intelligence agencies, which is why they are so in and out of a lot of these sordid tales, is because they're very interested. You can basically, if a person has a multiple personality disorder, the different personalities can be manipulated and brought out. And basically, it would create, theoretically, what you could consider like the perfect agent. A lot of these serial killers, they are very ruthless, cruel, and they are good. I mean, they're serial killers. They got away with it for a long time. They are able to somehow access these different personalities. And, a lot of this severe trauma. Also, too, I meant to say this, like a courier, someone carrying a message. If they are fed the message while in one personality and somehow they become shifted, however these intelligence agencies will initiate the shift in personality to a different one, basically this person would be the perfect courier. They can go transport the information, even if they are captured by some other intelligence agency or some other force. They won't give up the information while under extreme torture because, they're the perfect courier. And then whenever they get to their destination, whoever's wanting to receive the information can invoke that personality and voila. It's...
and it's funny you say that because, like, they know, because of military studies, they know that they can create this disorder in people, right? We know this, right? This isn't even like a secret. They teach special forces guys to like be able to detach their mind when they're being tortured, so they don't fucking give up information, right? This is something that they teach the U.S. military, so they know they are able to detach someone from their conscious mind through trauma. It's a known fucking thing.
Yes, it's just. Oh man, it's just mind blowing how deep this goes. Before we start reading from Beyond the Dutroux Affair, I've got a quote here I actually found that Mark Dutroux himself said to. He gave an interview while he was in prison shortly after he was found guilty of all these things. In this quote, he says, "People want to believe I am at the center of everything. They are mistaken. I did things of which I was not the driving force. I was used as an instrument by others who were themselves used by others." I'm not trying to excuse in any regard of all the depraved and horrible shit that Dutroux did, but I mean, it's very obvious looking into this, even though it's named the Dutroux Affair, that he's literally just the tip of the iceberg, you could say.
Yeah, there's actually a part of this after we get started that I want to get into, and it's the accused in politics and power. And it literally goes through all of these extremely powerful, or probably not all of them, but a lot of these extremely powerful, like princes, people who have been tied to the fucking royal family for
the
generations.
Belgian royal family. Yes. That Baron they called him the Black Baron. He was a baron over there in Belgium. His name was Benoit de Bonvoisin. I think it's Bonvoisin, actually. I actually looked that up and to see if you could if I was pronouncing it correctly. But Paul Vandenboyen, that's one I didn't look up, butchering it. But that motherfucker was the prime minister of Belgium on two different occasions. I believe once in 1968 and 69, and then later on in 77 or 78. I mean, these are prominent and influential and powerful people that engage in this depravity.
The most powerful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I swear, I've started to think that anybody that has any power in this system is involved in this.
Yes.
I mean,
100% of them. None of them. For the ones that aren't actively involved, they're complicit and they get the same treatment. They're indistinguishable from evil to me, right? If
oh
you
yeah,
know this is going on and you do nothing, you're almost worse.
oh
You're
yeah,
almost worse. And
yes,
they should receive the same fucking fate as these demons, in my opinion.
yes. Oh, there's a few guys I'd like to say hello to. Caitlin, thank you for stopping by. Moy to boy, I'm tickled to death you could make it. And there's Didymus Sumidid, the man who introduced this subject matter to me through his videos. Manifest Destiny, good to see you. And yeah, glad y'all could stop by. Um, let's see. Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you later in the stream. Wasn't going to do it right yet, but it's like, how do we combat this sort of thing? I think we all probably know the answer, but we're going to look at a guy later in the stream, a little bit later, a guy by the name of Jean-Pierre Van Rossem. He attempted to, but we'll save that for later. Let's get to the document here. I figured we would read the vast majority of Questioning the Alters, which
Right
is,
on.
the alter egos.
Yep.
I will read the first couple of paragraphs. We'll just switch back and forth if that's fine with you, John.
Sounds great, brother. Let's do it.
All right. Although a 100% confirmed psychological disorder, MPD remains quite controversial in the public's eye. For those who have even heard about it, it's true that DID is a complex disorder, sometimes hard to wrap the mind around. Pardon the unintentional pun. But this is largely the result of a lack of information. And if any of the politically correct arguments are stripped away, the real underlying reasons for the controversy becomes quite simple. First of all, DID is intrinsically linked to the most extreme sexual and psychological abuse cases against children. In 97 to 98% of the DID cases, victims talk about having been sexually abused since a young age. It's not uncommon for DID patients to give details about abuse that sound so bizarre, so horrifying, and huge that no matter what the evidence is, no matter what the evidence, will take some time and repeating for the average person to accept as even a possibility. Protected child abuse and torture networks involving well-known individuals would be a primary example of that. You want to read this next paragraph, John?
Yep. The second reason that these networks are protected by those involved, who apparently have the power to make sure that very little information on these networks appears in the public domain. Additionally, a rather small but very influential group of skeptics organized around the US-based False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which I got some stuff on that here in a second too, have been doing a counterattack since the early 1990s when reports of ritual abuse became a little too widespread. This group has done everything in its power to convince the public and the psychology community, that all DID is created by incompetent psychologists because of an incorrect way of asking questions. These psychologists would have inserted certain false memories in their patients' minds, even though more than a dozen board members of the FMSF have been accused of child abuse themselves, have come out in favor of pedophilia, or have passed mind control research for a whole range of intelligence agencies. Virtually no mainstream media ever felt the need to consistently point that out. As might be expected, Dutch and Belgian supporters of the FMS Foundation couldn't resist an attempt to discredit X1 with textbook disinformation tactics. You mind if I read just a few things of these people, who these people were?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So the False Memory Foundation was started by Peter and Pamela Frade. Peter Frade molested his child, and she came forward and told the authorities about it. And him and his wife and this Dr. David Dings, however the hell you say that, created the FMSF. Here's some of the things that Dr. David F. Dings did. He was a director for the Unit of Experimental Psychology, Chief Division of Sleep and Chronobiology, Vice Chair of Faculty Affairs for Professional Development, Department of Psychiatry, member of Penn Center for Sleep and Circadian Neurobiology, the Institute for Translation Medicine and Therapeutics, Center for Functional Neuroimaging, served on the NIH Advisory Council and numerous IOM NRC committees, has been the editor-in-chief of Sleep, president of the World Sleep Federation, on an NIH Advisory Council, president of the Sleep Research Society, and on the board of directors of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and the National Sleep Foundation. He is a scientific team leader for the National Space Biomedical Research Institute and an elected member of the International Academy of Astronautics. So this is someone who is completely wrapped up in, like, what do they call that? Hypnotism, right? You know
Yes.
that they use these sleep studies for hypnotism studies and shit like that, and that's exactly what this fucking dude does. He was also a major Air Force intelligence for the Human Ecology Foundation, a major CIA funding front for MK Ultra, and almost certainly also the NASA and Army worked for NSA and Army intelligence.
Oh yeah, it's lately I've thought a lot too. We have, as nationalists, we have a lot of enemies, and a lot of us, will focus on, the whoish group, the tribe, you could say.
Yep.
And yeah, certainly they are a major player, probably the spearhead, you could say. But one thing I've noticed a lot in some of my research lately is just the prominent role of the intelligence agencies. They are extreme. This is like a hydra, what we're against. It seems like, there's so many different heads attacking us, misleading us, all these things. But the intelligence agencies are something that I consider them the most cunning and conniving,
Well, they're the ones that keep it going, right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's just, man, it's the rabbit holes you can fall down by looking into some of these things are just, they go for miles. I don't think it's possible. It's just, it's dizzying. Oh, man. But yeah, you'll find a lot of these prominent intelligence figures involved in a lot of these things. You look at their history, their personal histories. Man, have you ever heard of a channel on Telegram called Propaganda Obscura by chance? I'll have to send you a link to it. They do an excellent job cataloging a lot of these prominent figures in intelligence, and some of them are, public figures. They've done a lot of interesting work. I'll have to send you a link to that whenever we get done with the stream for sure. They wrote up a summary of Michael Aquino a while back. James Jesus Angleton, that guy, and Wild Bill Donovan. James Jesus Angleton, Wild Bill Donovan, and Alan Dulles. Those three were extremely influential in founding the Central Intelligence Agency. Hell, Wild Bill Donovan, if I remember correctly, was a homosexual. They're into all these sorts of taboo type things.
Yeah,
and
dude.
This was back in the mid and late 40s, early 1950s. This stuff was, the public did not view homosexuality anywhere like they do today. It's just,
fuck no, they didn't. But that's the thing. All of these people are into such debaucherous lifestyles that they just have to, once you give yourself over to negative forces like that, whether you believe in Christianity or you're pagan, you have to agree that there are evil forces, right? There are bad entities that will and can take over people's mind, right? We know that. We see it all the time. But once you give yourself over to those powers, there's no end. You can't stop, right? You can't stop it just like, excuse me, but like, doing bad things to grown lot lizards at the truck stop, right? You have to go further. At some point in time, lot lizards don't do it for you no more. So you need something more, you know what I mean? And that's the way this goes, man. Once you give yourself over to evil, you can't stop.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just we truly are ruled by elite pedophiles. It would appear.
100%. You want me to pick back up here?
I'll pick up and read.
All right.
Read the next few paragraphs because they're fairly short. But even though FMS Foundation supporters have tried to muddy the waters somewhat. Every textbook psychology book makes a clear distinction between DID and schizophrenia. The latter is characterized by delusions, hallucinations, and a lack of sense of identity. The different alters of a person suffering from DID, however, and let me just interject here, an alter, is just an alternate personality. That's how they're using the term here. All have an identity of their own, and although memory is never 100% accurate, and there remains the possibility of manipulation, these alters have experienced something traumatic that actually did happen to this person. A brief article on the website of Merck, a large pharmaceutical company, gives us one of the best summaries of what DID actually is. Dissociative identity disorder appears to be a rather common mental disorder. Other sources say that DID is quite rare. It can be found in 3 to 4% of people hospitalized for other mental health disorders and in a sizable minority of people in drug abuse treatment facilities. However, some authorities, the FMSF, believe that many cases of this disorder reflect the influence of therapists on suggestible people. Identity disorder appears to be caused by the interaction of several factors. These include overwhelming stress and ability to separate one's memories, perceptions, or identity from conscious awareness, abnormal psychological development, and insufficient protection and nurture during childhood. About 97 to 98% of adults with DID report having been abused during childhood. Some symptoms may reflect the intrusions of past experiences into the present. For example, sadness may indicate coexisting depression, or it may be that one of the personalities is reliving emotions associated with past misfortunes. People with this disorder are prone to injuring themselves. They may engage in self-mutilation. Many attempt suicide. In DID, some of a person's personalities are aware of important personal information, whereas other personalities are unaware. It goes back to what we were talking about a second ago about the CIA being very interested in this sort of thing. Anyway, some personalities appear to know and interact with one another in an elaborate inner world. For example, a personality A may be aware of personality B and know what B does, as if observing B's behavior. Personality B, on the other hand, may or may not be aware of personality A. Because the personalities often interact with each other, people with dissociative dissociative personality disorder report hearing inner conversations and the voices of other personalities commenting on their behavior or addressing them, not to be confused with hallucinations. They experience distortion of time with time lapses and amnesia. People with DID may not be able to recall things they have done or account for changes in their behavior. Often they refer to themselves as we, he, or she. While most people cannot recall much about the first 3 to 5 years of life, people with DID may have considerable amnesia for the period between the ages of 6 and 11 as well. X1 suffered from all the symptoms described above. This is, as we mentioned earlier, a lady named Regina Loof, who was basically the star witness, and more. She told how many of her alters still had the same age as when they were created, or how her handwriting differed depending on which alter was active. As is obvious from her background of extreme abuse, these symptoms started at an early age. And interestingly, her pimp not only wasn't, let me scroll down here, surprised when he first encountered X1's alters, he actually cultivated them. You want to read these next 3 here, John?
Yeah.
If you don't have anything to add.
No, I do. I had something. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, having a different style of handwriting for each personality that's extremely hard. I don't know if you've ever tried to like change your handwriting, especially if it's like 3 or 4 different ones, right? I could understand having like a print writing and like a really nice cursive writing or something like that, but to have 3 or 4 different ways of writing,
It's
doesn't seem like
impossible.
it doesn't seem like something that's easy to do.
Yeah. It's not very easy. I do think I've noticed over my life, though, I've seen things that I've written when I was a child. Your handwriting does change with age, it seems like. But to be doing all of this at once is, it's very suspicious, very suspect.
And this is her talking about him cultivating these personalities.
Tony was his name. I remember.
Yeah,
Tony was her pimp, you could say.
More than ever, I discovered that I was missing time. I turned out to have gone to school, got good grades. I even turned out to know several classmates who spoke to me, but somehow this all had gone past me. It seems as if someone else took over for me as soon as the door of my house closed behind me. It seems as if the abused guinea was put away until Tony again stood at my bed or at the school gate. The abused Guinea, I don't really know how. We'll say Genie since it's a girl, not Guinea, huh? We're not making fun of Italians here. Genie. So the abused Genie hardly was aware of school and family life. The other Genie seemed not present during the abuse and so lived normal. It had always been this way. In Kanoki, at grandmother's, the adults had noticed that I talked to the voices in my head, that I often rapidly changed moods or even began to speak with another voice or accent, even though I was only 5 or 6. I understood that something like this was weird and that it was not allowed. I learned to hide my voices, my other selves, after what happened to Chloe. The voices and the bizarre feeling that I, at times, was led by inner voices or persons, got stronger. After the initiation, I no longer resisted against the voices. It was blissful to disappear into nothingness and only to become conscious again if Tony was there. The pain seemed more bearable. Tony was the only adult who understood that something was wrong in my head. He didn't get mad about it, but cultivated it. He gave me different names, Pedimus, Messigi.
I don't know how you say these.
I'm not. Yeah, whore. No, that literally is whore. So that's what it translates to. It says that here later in the thing. So whore and beau. The names slowly started to become a part of me. The strange thing was that if he mentioned the name, the mood that fit with that name was immediately called up. Pedimus, or small mouse, became the name he gave of the little girl that he brought home after the abuse. A scared and nervous little girl that he could comfort by talking to her in a caring and fatherly kind of way. Mesji, or girl, was the name of that part of me that only belonged to him. If he abused me in my bed in the early morning, for example, or if there was no one around us, whore, the name of the part of me that worked for him. Beau, the young woman who cared for him if he was drunk and needed to be looked after.
That's just crazy. I mean,
yeah.
Goddamn.
I mean, it's just wild to me. Like, I don't know. I can't wrap my head around that. Like, it's the thing that I know that happens, but I could never wrap my head around like not even sexually, but just like mentally abusing my son like that, like just fucking with him, always picking at him and just trying to drive him. I could never imagine being that kind of evil. You know what I mean?
Being that
wild.
Cruel.
Yeah.
Just mirthless, ruthless.
I'll finish this last one right here. So he says, "Now you just leave that to me," he said when I asked him curiously why he gave me so many names. "Daddy Tony knows you better than you know yourself." And that was also true. It's just fucking brutal, dude. It's horrifying. So brutal.
Let's see. I'll pick up here.
And not to be, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And not to be like, I'm not like shitting on women or anything, but like we all know that women are extremely emotionally and mentally malleable. Like even as adults, right? Even as adults, could you imagine how fucked up you could have a child's head if you started doing this to them at 5 and 6 years old? This is absolutely 100% obvious to me, right? Like this doesn't surprise me, right, that these things are possible because we know the female mind is so malleable, and then to attack them at such a young age is just insane, dude.
Oh, I know. What was I going to say? I was going to add something to that. And a lot of this abuse even starts when they're just toddlers, even younger, perhaps. It's just, oh God, it's just dizzying, like I said earlier. Let's see. Some of X1's other 100 plus alters See, a lot of these girls, a lot of these, hell, it can happen to young men too, boys. Your personality can be split, 100, perhaps even 1,000 times. It mentions later on in this article. Let's see. Some of X1's other 100 plus alters were Kenny, a young alter who had dealt with some of the worst torture, Stone, one of the toughest who answered to Tony and could control her fears, and Moon, who was born to deal with extreme cold. Yeah, a lot of times they just leave these girls, chained up outside. I remember reading a story and doing some research into Operation Gladio about that Baron Benoit de Bonvoisin for a video. And there's a story that I was reading. It was written by X1, actually. It's not mentioned here in this article, but she had been tied up in a cold, like a deserted garage and she was like chained up for like 3, 4, 5, 6 hours or so. And then, it's just crazy. These people are just.
And that's also what they found in Dutroux's house. Remember, like in his basement behind that false wall, we talked about this on the last show. They found like fucking literal like dog cages.
Oh,
he was chaining these girls up to just a concrete floor. I mean, yeah.
It's just
fucked up, dude.
It's ridiculous. It's just, and it's like you said, the normal people who aren't, aware of these things, who aren't initiated into, just researching this, of course they're going to believe, it's too much, it's just, and a lot of them don't want to believe it, of course, because it just shatters the illusion that they have of the world, you could say, that the system cares for them, all of that.
Yeah, and it also shatters that illusion that anybody's coming to help you.
Oh, yes.
Everybody who has the quote unquote ability to help you is a fucking demon. There's no help coming. And they don't want to realize that.
Oh, yeah. You know what you just said there, it kind of reminds me of that line from the movie Goodfellas, wherever near the end of the movie, whenever Henry Hill is saying that, killers don't just, let you know that they're going to kill you. They come up with, handshakes, hugs, and smiles, and I mean, that's how these people operate. That's the front they operate under. Let's see. I think might be a good time for us to bring up that article that I'd sent you earlier about, how we had mentioned that, the false memory foundation, and, these different claims. The establishment will try to, I guess you could say, put out the fire whenever a lot of this information becomes public, like through a hot button topic or a huge news event like the Dutroux Affair was in Belgium and the Netherlands, and also how, the Franklin child abuse scandal here in the United States, the Presidio, the McMartin School, all of these things. I found an article a few weeks ago before I did a stream with Apollonian Germ, and during that stream, actually, me and the Germ read an article that had just came out that was some of the most blatant propaganda. It was trying to put out the fires regarding, a lot of, it was an interesting stream, and it was a ridiculous article saying, anybody that believes we're ruled by pedophiles is, a Q-tard, Q-ant. Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Exactly what they do. They always try to, because they don't want people knowing about this, so they try to cover it up because they know how like salacious it is, right? They know how fucking bizarre and just unbelievable the depraved crimes that they do are. They know how bizarre they are, so they wrap those in these stupid fucking conspiracy theories like tunnels under pizza parlors and shit like that to discredit and get people away from even looking into that. They're like, oh yeah, man, if you think that pedophile shit is it's like you said, Q-tard shit, that's for quacks, that's flat earth type shit. You know what I mean? Nobody takes that shit seriously. And that's exactly how they do it. It's a two-pronged approach. They do it by putting out this misinformation and these extremely retarded conspiracy theories to obfuscate from what's actually going on. And then they have things like this Clifford Lazarus article where they have these PhDs come out and try to run cover from the intellectual side.
Yeah, I think it's a short article. I think we will, if you're interested, we'll try to read it real quick here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Clifford Lazarus, PhD, And guys, I'm sure you can probably guess what this guy's ethnicity is. It's not very hard. His surname's Lazarus.
That's pretty
Plus,
easy there.
if you look at the guy's picture, you know he beady eyes, big nose, all that.
Yeah, if you've ever read The Poisonous Mushroom, he fits that bill 100%.
Absolutely. All right, this is his article. It's titled "Why DID or MPD is a Bogus Diagnosis." DID, dissociative identity disorder, or dangerously inaccurate diagnosis. He writes here, perhaps one of the most controversial and potentially dangerous psychological diagnoses is the so-called multiple personality disorder, MPD, which was reclassified as dissociative identity disorder, DID. In the previous version of the DSM, in etc., the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition, better known as the DSM-IV, DSM-4, and retained in the current edition, the DSM-5. Apparently, this is some psychological textbook, some authority. Anyway, briefly, MPD or DID involves several features, chief of which is the presence of two or more distinct identities or personality states, each with its own enduring pattern of thinking, perceiving, and relating. In the vast majority of these cases, there is a reported history of extreme anxiety, usually stemming from traumatic abuse or neglect. You want to take the next couple, John?
Yeah. In suspected cases of MPD or DID, at least two of these identities or personality states, sometimes referred to as alters, recurrently take control of the person's behavior. The person is then unable to recall important personal information that is too extensive to be explained by ordinary forgetfulness. The fact that the mental health establishment reclassified MPD as DID indicates that the very concept of this disorder is unstable, open to debate, and hard to pin down. Nevertheless, there are some mental health practitioners who seem almost married to the diagnosis and claim dozens of their clients are suffering from the condition. Indeed, I know of one psychiatrist who dedicates her practice to DID cases and claims that the number of people suffering from it in the general population is huge. And I just kind of want to comment on that because I agree. So I think that in these cases of like X1 and things like that, where they have hundreds and it's like, really prevalent in them, they were the victims of extreme abuse. But I think, I wrote that article a while back about how MK Ultra just went mainstream. Society is now one huge MK Ultra experiment, right? So I believe that modernity is giving people this. I mean, think about what we were talking about earlier. Let me pull this up.
Okay.
Cutters, right? Even though more than a dozen members of the FMSF have been linked to child abuse, blah, 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 blah. They go through there and they talk about people cutting themselves, right? We see that in like the little goth emo girls, right? And those girls haven't necessarily been molested. They're just destroyed by modern culture, right? By modern society. It has driven them crazy. There was some other stuff in there when we were reading about that kind of reminded me of trannies, where they refer to themselves as they, them, and all this weird shit, right? Like if you look around at our modern society, this is happening to people on a smaller scale. Obviously, I'm not saying that everybody was like raped with snakes and weird shit, but like on a smaller scale, just modernity is doing this to people. 100, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's let's see, where was we? Yeah, I agree with you completely about modernity. It's mass psychosis, you could say. Anyways, in truth, if MPD or DID even exists, it is amazingly rare. In fact, within my professional network, not a single competent therapist I know of has ever seen a legitimate case of DID. Thus, never, in my experience, among dozens of clinicians who have provided treatment to literally thousands of clients spanning decades of clinical practice, has a single person ever been identified as a bona fide DID sufferer. Even the famous case of Sybil, whose bizarre odyssey through the labyrinth of MPD sold millions of books and led to an Emmy-winning TV miniseries. Sybil is that show with that Sybil Shepherd? Or, I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like an old, it was like a TV show that was like about a cowgirl, wasn't it?
Oh, is it?
I think so. I could be wrong. I think it was an old 90s TV show that was about like a cowgirl. I could be wrong though.
See, I thought it was that. woman, Sybil. She played when she was much younger in that movie Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro.
Oh,
That's
right
what I
on.
was thinking.
Okay.
But I know she had, but I think her show was like a comedy series. But I could be wrong. This is when I was a kid. I can't, and I never watched it or anything.
Yeah, sold millions of books and led to an Emmy-winning TV series. Yeah, let me see what that is.
Yeah,
I'll
if
look
you
it
want to
up.
look that up,
Yeah,
I'll
go
read the
ahead.
next couple paragraphs. Has been exposed as a total hoax and a complete fraud. See Debbie Nathan's new book, Sybil Exposed: The Extraordinary Story Behind the Famous Multiple Personality Case, which draws on a cache of letters at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice that reveals how three women, all now dead, created what they called Sybil Incorporated for fun, fame, and profit. It worked pretty well, right? Yeah, this ain't Sybil Shepherd. I'd
No,
never.
I just looked it up. It's a mini series about this. It's so the description is a young woman whose childhood was so harrowing to her that she developed 16 different personalities as treated by a doctor. So it's about some girl being traumatized in her childhood and having MPD.
Yeah, and she pretty much just faked it, I guess. Anyway, where was I?
Well, so they
Okay.
say.
Yeah, that's what they say. Hence, the danger for the consumer is that if a therapist unquestioningly buys into the label, the therapist will be likely to find, or worse yet, manufacture evidence that supports the diagnosis. Even more alarming is that some clinicians actually encourage behaviors that seem consistent with the label, which increases the likelihood that the client will act more like the label and begin to fit into this diagnostic category. The net result is that the real underlying psychological disturbance won't be properly addressed and the client will fail to derive any true therapeutic benefits from the treatment. Even worse, he or she might be harmed due to the common emphasis that DID therapy places on recovered memories, which in itself is a tremendously problematic issue. Now, I am not denying that people can have strange, disconnected, amnesic, and fragmented experiences, nor am I totally decrying the diagnosis of DID. It is possible that some unfortunate people who have suffered through horrendous abuse, neglect, or trauma may indeed suffer from some malady resembling this condition. Still, before placing the label MPD or DID on someone, other more rational explanations for the behavior must be ruled out, such as serious medical or severe neurological conditions, or seizure disorders, drug intoxication, or perhaps more credible psychological disturbances such as post-traumatic PTSD, psychoses, fictitious disorder, malingering, or extreme personality disorders. The
Is it
bottom
just
line.
me? Is
Oh,
it
go
just
ahead.
me, or did he just use a bunch of different words to explain the same thing?
Exactly. That's exactly what
Right?
he
Like he
did.
tried to
That's
just say,
exactly what.
"Oh, what the fuck? These fucking people." Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. Let me see. I jumped back and forth. The bottom line, based on the evidence I've seen, MPD or DID is not a widespread or common disorder, despite the insistence of some practitioners. If it does actually exist, it is most likely due to profound neurological illness, not a psychiatric condition. So basically, that sounds like he's just saying, yeah, if he was to examine or examine some of these girls, theoretically speaking, from the X dossiers, he would say, this is all just a profound neurological illness, something that they were born with. It's not, because that's
Well,
exactly what happened. A lot of these girls, X1, Regina Loof, in the mainstream is horribly discredited. All these girls are. It's just.
and here's the deal: like this extreme trauma. I mean, trauma outside the realm of like thinkable reality for someone like us, right? Just the most insane trauma you could imagine is going to give you a neurological illness, right? It's going to fuck up the way your brain is wired. That's what happened. I mean, music changes the way your fucking brain is wired, dude. We know that. That's in scientific studies. So
Yeah.
of course they're going to have profound neurological illness that leads to a psychiatric condition. You motherfucker, dude. See,
To
these people fucking infuriate me with their sideways talk, dude.
Oh, I know. And this guy here, Clifford Lazarus, his kind of people are the absolute best at this sort of thing. So, anyways, let's see. Yeah. go back to the Beyond the Dutroux Affair. I'm looking here, John. It'll take us 8. We could do 80 streams with a lot of this material, which is fine with me. You know, it's a
dude.
It's a wealth.
I mean, not to sound macabre or anything. Like I don't love covering this, but I mean it's important, and I like covering this shit. People need to know about this because, like I said, it's just so insane. You almost can't even wrap your mind around it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was like you were saying earlier. You know, even I have my difficulties, you could say, wrapping my head around it. You know, just it's kind of like just shock and awe, you could say, at just trying to fathom just how depraved these people are. And you know, that's a good point. Why you said about how covering this sort of thing is very important. This next part of Beyond the Dutroux Affair is called A Sniff of Extreme Abuse. It's where a lot of the pictures, you could say, they're all censored out, of course. It's not like, where this document has child porn, but I mean, it's censored out, but I mean, you can fucking tell what the fuck is going on. It's awful. It's fucking awful. Go ahead. What was you going to say?
I don't even know what to say about it. Like looking at that, it leaves me speechless. It leaves me fucking speechless. Like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that. I probably shouldn't say, like, if I walked in on something like that, dude, like, it's not going to be a pretty fucking scene. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to fucking lay the wrath of
Chimp
God
out
on these motherfuckers. Yeah,
Chimp
dude.
out time. But I don't think we should go too in depth with a lot of this, a sniff of extreme abuse section, because I mean, it is extremely graphic. It's like we've touched on it some. It involves, horses, German shepherds, mutilation, snakes. I mean, we're not going. It isn't very hard to imagine, what's going on. There is one little snippet here I would like to read. It said, besides having been raped by dogs, X1 also spoke about how Bernard Weinstein, an associate of Dutroux, which was Dutroux's right-hand man, until murdered by Dutroux in 1995, and Annie Bowdy, I don't know how you pronounce it, a former girlfriend of Michael Nile, who we haven't really mentioned yet in this particular stream, sometimes walked around with a snake at abuse sessions, which they used to, well, you can imagine. Bernard Weinstein, you can tell what ethnicity he was. Me and Patrick Bateman, we've talked some about this. We have this theory that Weinstein was probably involved with the Mossad. I mean, any of these intelligence agencies. So far in all of my research regarding the Dutroux Affair, he is the only member of the tribe that I've came across yet that I could actually confirm. A lot of the other people, are unfortunately they're Belgian, Flemish, Dutch, French in some cases. But I think he's it's hard to find a lot of information on Weinstein. I've dug into it, but there's just not a lot there. And
well, there's no way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. What was you going to say?
I was just going to say, there's no way you're going to convince me that Mossad didn't have their hooks in that foot. Yeah, come on. There's
all these
no
intelligence agencies work together. MI6, the Mossad, the CIA. It's just the usual suspects, as Franz said. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll down further here. It talks about snuff films. A lot of these girls are shoved into snuff films, you could say. There is a very robust market for this sort of material, which would bring us, I guess we could say, I'm going to skip on down here, John, to, let me see.
Where you want to go?
I'm going to go to the part where we start to talk about a very interesting character, Jean-Pierre Van Rossem.
I'll find him,
Yeah, you just, you have to scroll down a few pages. I
Yeah,
wish the pages.
There he is.
Yeah, he looks like a fucking hippie, dude.
Yeah. Well, and I looked up, I tried to find like some interviews of him, and I wish I had a way to translate it. They have a bunch of interviews with him on YouTube, but they're all in French.
Oh yeah, they're in French
Yeah. Or Belgium
or
or whatever the
Dutch
fuck it is. Yeah,
or
Dutch, whatever it is.
Flemish.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway, just a little background about Jean-Pierre Van Rossem. I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page here.
Okay.
He was born on the 29th of May in 1945, less than a month following the suicide of the Fuhrer. And he passed away, though. Yeah. He passed away on December the 14th, 2018, which wasn't just 3 years, almost 3 to 4 years ago. He was a Belgian stock market guru, an economist, and an econometrician. He was also a convicted fraudster, author, philosopher, public figure, politician, and a member of the Belgian and Flemish parliaments. See, this guy, he was a pretty intelligent guy. He had his hands in a lot of different things, you could say. He was also, and see, this Wikipedia article does not mention his connection to the Dutroux Affair. He was also a sort of anarchist, you could say. He absolutely hated the system. He's kind of an ambiguous figure. You could say he's a little bit of a degenerate, you could say.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, do you think he was always an anarchist, or do you think that through his, his salacious activities, he saw what the elite were doing and became to hate the state, right? Because I feel like if you're one of these guys who's a high up politician and you like to partake in hookers, whether they be of age or not, like I said earlier, there's going to be a point in time when you are either approached or you approach someone else to go a little step further. And maybe as he was taking that step further, he realized how depraved this really was, and that's what made him decide to
hate the system.
Go on, yeah, and go on this crusade that he went on.
Yeah, even though Jean-Pierre Van Rossem, as we will read about in a little bit later here, he went on a crusade. I like how you described that, John. He went on a crusade to try to take down this system, at least in Belgium and the Netherlands. Let's see, Jean-Pierre Van Rossem, he was a stock market guru. He invented Moneytron, an investment company that could offer apparently endless returns. His customers included the moneyed of Europe, including the Belgian royal family. He claimed he had developed a model that could predict the stock market and beat the capitalist system. He invested for the very wealthy and accumulated $860 million for himself. At his most successful, Van Rossem owned a yacht called the Destiny, 108 Ferraris, and 2 Falcon 900 aircraft. Later, everything was sold to pay his debts. Basically, he had like a little Ponzi scheme going.
Yeah, and I wonder, it makes me wonder if the only reason he got taken down is because he started sniffing into this snuff shit, right?
Oh,
seemed like they were perfectly fine with him making money for them until he started fucking exposing the demonic shit they were up to.
Yeah. In 1991, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud. According to him, it was a way to fuck the system. In prison, he wrote a personal diary. It's called Gevangenis Book, which translates to prison book, which was later published. He had his hands in a lot of different things. He was involved in he sponsored and later became the majority owner of a Formula One racing team in 1989. Let's see. He also he founded his own libertarian protest party called Rossem to, according to many, to gain political immunity because one of his problems was with the Belgian courts. Let's see. Anything else of relevance? In the controversy section of his Wikipedia page, it said at the coronation ceremony of King Albert II of Belgium, he shouted, "Viva la République d'Europe, viva la Haute," as a reference to Julien Lahaute, who had shouted "Viva la République" in 1950 at the coronation of Baudouin of Belgium. Van Rossem was against the Belgian monarchy. Of course, he was against it because they are involved in a lot of this shit.
Kid diddling, yeah.
Yeah. Not only, I think that's a really good observation that you made, John, where you mentioned a second ago about the, he was making money for these people, and then things started going downhill. When he started to look into these things further.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to go back to Beyond Dutroux. Let's see. So I'm having to backpedal a little bit.
I've got right here where it says Van Rossem was one of the most eccentric and controversial persons.
Yeah, that's where we should start at.
You want me to take off?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No doubt, Van Rossem is one of the most eccentric and controversial persons of Belgium. However, even though he looks like a doped-up cult leader, he certainly isn't. In the 1970s, Van Rossem developed a piece of software called Moneytron, which apparently could quite accurately predict trends in the money market. With an average return on investments of 18 to 25% in the 1980s and early 1990s, Van Rossem gained fortune of $700 million and attracted businessmen from all over the world. At some point, he also counted the Belgian royal family among his clients. In 1991, Van Rossem was sentenced to 5 years in jail on charges of massive financial fraud. Released after about a third of the sentence, which is normal in Belgium. It would have probably have been longer if his clients would have testified against him. However, a lot of the money Van Rossem was handed appears to have been dirty. Just before being conceived, conceived. Just before being convicted, Van Rossem had become an active in libertarian politics and had won 3 seats in the parliament. Around the time he went to jail, he had begun to write books. One of these books was Hoe kom ik van de Ground? How Do I Get Off the Ground? Published in 1993, in which he describes his experiences with escort services, brothels, S&M clubs, and other aspects of sex culture. Even though he was enormously wealthy and knew everything about finance, Van Rossem was mostly shunned by the Belgian aristocracy. Besides his unusual look and simple background, his anarchist tendencies appear to have been the main cause of that. Van Rossem had made numerous prepared statements not only against the Belgian royal family and Islam, but more recently also about the West's financial clique keeping the third world poor, 9/11, and the bird flu. For his book, Hoe kom ik van Ground, Van Rossem gathered a small group of people who went to all kinds of different sex clubs to give them a rating. Although this is already quite an unusual thing to do, especially for a reasonably prominent person, that wasn't even close to enough for Van Rossem. Van Rossem also tried to unearth evidence of child abuse and snuff networks, and it appears that he succeeded in that. His narrative of the whole adventure reads like somewhat of a more hardcore version of the 1999 movie 8mm with Nicolas Cage. And you'll never convince me that that's not what that movie wasn't based on this. Like, if you watch the movie and then read about this case, it's almost identical. It's crazy. At some point, Van Rossem took with him a well-known customer of many different sex shops in Belgium and just across the border in the Netherlands. In all these shops, he asked the owner for more exclusive material, obviously implying illegal. Under-the-counter magazines, pictures, and videos. None of the sex shops in Antwerp and Brussels could or would help him with his request. However, in a few stores in Holst and Puut, 2 small towns about 60 kilometers or 40 miles apart, the former just across the border in the Netherlands, and the latter in Belgium, Antwerp is right in between them. He was able to get pedophile magazines, pictures, and videos. One of the things that Van Rossem learned was that pedophiles were active at the Dutch-Belgian border who kidnapped children, often for brief periods, to abuse them in front of the camera. Apparently, the Dutch and Belgian police in these areas have numerous dossiers on this kind of abuse. But in the rare case that a perpetrator is caught, they are usually unable to prove that the abuser is in contact with a network. As numbers on missing and killed children are too unorganized to be very useful, this might very well be true. And I mean, you can't, like I said, you can't convince me that that's not by design, that the numbers of missing or killed children are too unorganized to be very useful. Like, come the fuck on, dude. There was another thing up in here I wanted to touch on. Oh yeah, when it talks about the Dutch and Belgian police in these areas having numerous dossiers on this kind of abuse. When we get further into this, I don't know if we'll be able to do it tonight, but as we get further into this, we will start talking about cops, fucking police officers who have seen these videos that were so disgusting they couldn't even finish them. They were throwing up. They had to turn them off, but nothing happens, right? How do you not like airstrike these motherfuckers? I mean, sorry not to be like Fed post or anything, but like, how do you not send in a U.S. military intervention against this kind of evil? It's just fucking. It just goes to show you that it's over, man. This whole fucking system is rotten to the very fucking core, all the way to the last thread. After buying some, oh hey, what's up, Bubba? After buying, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was agreeing with you and ranting there, but I was muted. So
I hate that shit, dude. I always do that.
I wanted to say something here right quick from the chat. Didymus said, speaking on Van Rossem, not a role model, but a man of our race with some good qualities. Very true, Didymus. And there's FedEx me your drugs. Tickled to death to see you. He said, "God
great
dang
channel,
boy."
man.
Yeah, I know. I love FedEx. I actually listened to his interview with Colin Flaherty today while working due to his death yesterday.
Yeah, it was a sad deal, man.
Yeah, some people give Colin heck for not going after the JQ, you could say, but I think he was a good investigative journalist that showed us his book, White Girl Bleed a Lot,
Yeah, White Girl Bleed a Lot and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. I actually still have my Audible copy of White Girl Bleed a Lot. That's hard to listen to, man. That is hard to listen to. But yeah, about him not like naming the tribe and all that shit. Like, dude, not to get too into it, but that shit frustrates me, man. Like, not everybody has to be a fucking National Socialist. We can have allies that do great work, right? It's like, come on, man, get out of here.
Yeah, I know. It's, I think that's one thing. A lot of our guys, unfortunately, will try to, they expect everyone to, go after, the JQ, you could say, which, yeah, that's worth it and stuff. But, Colin Flaherty, he had a huge platform, you could say. I mean, he got his books published and everything, and what he did, I consider, was very good work. And, you have to play, if you want a huge platform, a mainstream platform, you could say, even though the mainstream, of course, shoved him after a lot of they shunned him after a lot of his more important work, you have to play by their rules, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and if you listen to the way Colin Flaherty talked, if you really listen to Colin Flaherty a lot, not just like caught his little 5-minute videos, but if you actually listen to him on podcasts and stuff, you could tell what he was doing. He would say shit like, hey, I'm just reporting what's happening. I don't know why it's happening. I don't know what the cause of it is. I don't know any of that. I'm just telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And that was his method, right? That was his way of getting this shit out there. I mean, he couldn't have come out and been like, yeah, I'm exposing the hard R's for their violent nature. Right? They would have nuked him immediately. Right? He had to fucking do what he did. And I think he did great work.
Yeah, I think he did. I wasn't very, really all that familiar with him, to be honest, but I did see the news yesterday, and I was like, oh, I FedEx me your drugs done an interview with him. I need to check that out. Anyway, where was we? John, I've completely lost my fucking place here.
So we were at after buying some of the
Okay, I'll pick up there and read the next few. After buying some of the pedophile goods, which included a painful rape of a small child, Van Rossem went back to one of the sex shops and asked for even more hardcore material, for which he was willing to pay a hefty price. He hinted that he would like to see a girl being murdered on camera. Within a week, Van Rossem received what he had ordered for 5,000 euros, a price quite similar to later reports. In Van Rossem's words, the tape showed how the girl was brought into an empty room by a man with a hood over his head. She was handcuffed. The man cut the clothes from her body with a knife. She had scratches and bruises all over her body. He hit her in the face with his hand. After that, she was thrown to the ground by the same man and anally raped. When he was done with this, he threw the girl against a wall and began to beat and kick her over her whole body. When she slid to the ground, he went to stand with one foot on all her limbs and broke with both hands her arms and legs. Then for some time he slowly worked on her with a knife and stabbed her 32 times in total, mainly in the chest and abdomen. Finally, he cut her throat again slowly. After that, he slowly labored on the girl's body from the feet to her head with great attention to the bloody details. It was perfectly clear that the girl was already dead by then. The whole movie lasted 57 minutes and had not been edited. God damn, who the fuck wants to watch some shit like that? Having been supplied with this video still was not enough for Van Rossem. While receiving the video from the sex store owner, he had inquired if he could be present when such a snuff movie was shot. The sex store owner had called to his anonymous supplier with this request and informed Van Rossem that something might be arranged. But first, he had to give his personal information. 2 days after watching the video, Van Rossem was called by a representative of the organization that made these snuff movies and was invited to a cafe in Breda, in the Netherlands, that same evening. When Van Rossem arrived, a well-dressed man of about 30 years old approached him. This person informed Van Rossem that he was to take him to a person who could help him. Van Rossem was brought to another cafe where a slightly younger but equally well-dressed man was waiting. This person informed him that they had looked at his personal and financial information and that this was satisfying. In 2 or 3 short conversations over the next 2 days, a deal was made in which Van Rossem would be taken to an undisclosed location where he could rape and kill a girl any way he liked. It would cost him 75,000 euros, but it would only be 45,000 if he only wanted to watch in live action. Of course, I mean, yeah. We're about finished with this little part here. Of course, Van Rossem backed off at the last moment, leaving organizers of the event with the impression that he was afraid to get robbed by them. Van Rossem went to one of his other apartments at the sea for a few months to lay low, but before doing that, he had deposited all his evidence and additional information in the mailbox of the Court of Cassation in Breda, which is, he took all the evidence, all the information, and shoved it into the mailbox at the Court of Cassation in Breda, the public court. Van Rossem waited and waited in the following weeks, expecting to be contacted or at least reading something in the paper about a follow-up investigation. Nothing happened, and nothing was reported. So that just goes to show,
you want me to...
these... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, and you're right, though. It just goes to show you that the reporters are not willing to talk about this, even when they have actual fucking video of a little girl being cut up. I mean, like, come on, man. Like I said while you were gone, like, I don't understand how there wasn't, like, a military action put upon these people. You know what I mean? The sex shop remained in existence, and after some time, Van Rossem sent one of his contacts to inquire yet again for special material. It turned out that there was a new owner who couldn't arrange any of this. After the contact explained that it had been possible in the past to get this special material at this location, the new owner explained that this is what had gotten the previous owner into trouble. So apparently something happened, but it never made the newspapers. It is clear that Van Rossem did in his depth of research on the topic as possible, as he himself continually visited the red light district of every major city he went to. He loved visiting prostitutes, notwithstanding that he did an excellent job with his book in late 1996. X2 raised some questions about how in-depth Van Rossem's research had actually been. PV 117.535, November 19, 1996. This is a summary of X2's testimony. Parties with underage children in Eindhoven, a large Dutch city near the Belgian border, with Delvaux, 18th century castle. Departure in the convoy from Kanoki. The cars with German license plates followed with the little girls. Reception at the castle equals a woman equals a price of 2,000 Belgian francs per person, about 50 euros. It is necessary to come with another person. It is necessary to take off clothes. A bikini might be accepted. Swimming pool, sauna, solar bench, cold buffet. There are rooms without doors, 2 different themes. Rooms with
Let's see.
rooms with mirrors and cameras, rooms with several mattresses, rooms with
Obstetric.
Yeah,
Obstetric.
what does that mean?
It's a obstetrician table. I guess it's like a
Oh,
table
right.
where a woman gets a pap smear. You know, the
Yeah, and they
fucking
get
stirrups and
clamped
shit.
down. Yeah, okay.
Fucking weird
Handcuffs, chains. Carol and X2 went to this place 30 to 50 times. To this castle, seemingly an average of about once a month. The same little girls as those in Cromwell, clients of the castle, Patrick Dennis, Jean-Pierre Van Rossem, Baron de Bonvoisin, Jean-Paul Dumont, friends of Patrick Dennis, Karine, another Karine and Patricia, who work in the Palace of Justice in Bruxelles, Benoit Hubert, Claude Leroy, Paul Bourlet, an attorney in Neville's. The little girls disappeared when they were about 15 to 16 years. For the orgies, the little girls of 12 or 13 years, in the summer of 1988, one of the oldest, Ava, 15 or 16 years old, was taken into the sadomasochistic room. She was never seen again. The little girls drank alcohol and came out of those parties completely numb. At least in the summary, it is not specified who the guests did and did not abuse under. Sorry. At least in the summary, it is not specified who of the guests did and did not abuse the underage girls. It is possible that this was just one of Van Rossem's many paid sex explorations, and it's obviously that a one-time visit would be enough for anyone to remember him. But still, this testimony does raise some questions. However, many events in Van Rossem's life, which is characterized by bizarre situations and controversial statements, raise questions. In some cases, his statements reflect a huge egotism, but he often appears to be giving the simple truth, something which is not appreciated by everyone. An example relating to the global trafficking of children and women, many other quotes have been taken up in his biography in the accused appendix.
This is talking about. Let's see. I'll finish this up. I'll read these next 2 paragraphs, and I'm going to say we'll go ahead and probably wrap it up. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. I hate to say it, I'm getting rather hungry myself.
Yeah, no. However long you want to go, Bob, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, we could. God, there's hours of content that could be gleaned from this stuff. Anyway. The Philippines are the target of boy-loving pedophiles who can get here anything they want. 9 or 10-year-old boys are loudly offered by hotel managers or by pimps on the streets. Rio has also become a pedophile paradise where boys and girls are offered freely. In Bangkok, the lovers of hard sex and extreme S&M or similar rushes can find what they are looking for. In clubs, there is a floor show in which sex with dogs, snakes, goats, or even donkeys, ponies, and horses is very normal, and where girls are delivered to hotel rooms on an everything is allowed basis. Violent sex in which the girls or boys are hurt, mutilated, or killed is very normal here. The Eastern European countries formerly belonging to the USSR, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria, have become sex paradises in a very short period. In a time frame of several years, Budapest has become an immense red light area with hundreds of bars, cabarets, and brothels, and has it become the largest rotating platter of trade in women in Europe. You know, that's interesting. They bring up Budapest, Hungary. Of course, I'm thinking when this was written was, 25 years ago. We all hear about, based Hungary, Viktor Orban. I wonder if this same shit is actually going on in Hungary to this day, or if it's, been cleaned up some. You have any idea, John?
I don't know, like, factually, but, like, I've just become so jaded to this that I honestly think that all of these people, the leader of every country, is intrinsically involved with this shit. 100% of them. From Africa to the United States. Every fucking one of them.
I agree with you completely there. I have absolutely no faith in any system anymore. At least any of the leaders presented to us. Um, it's like you said, they're all involved some way, whether they're actively in it or they know of it. They just choose to look the other way. Anyway, going back to what Van Rossem had said about in his biography, The Accused Appendix. In the streets of Moscow or St. Petersburg, thousands of heroin and vodka-addicted girls offer their services. Also with us, the bars, cabarets, and brothels are filled with Eastern European girls. Even though the public still thinks that sadistic child abuse is mainly a crime committed by a few unorganized psychopaths, as Dutroux or Fournier, I think's how you pronounce that, I have no idea. In professional investigating circles, it is widely acknowledged that large organized sadistic child abuse networks exist right here in the West. Going through British newspaper archives provides one with numerous reports of pedophiles trading pictures and videos amongst one another, sometimes on a very large scale. Senior executives of Scotland Yard, Europol, or Interpol, for example, Bjorn Eriksson, have accepted the existence of large pedophile networks a long time ago. So yeah, wow, it's shocking to read, shocking to look at.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. It makes your head spin to realize how deep into the levers of power this shit goes, man.
Oh yeah, it's like the levers of power are actually forged with this shit.
Yep, 100%. They're powered by it.
Yeah, blackmail material. Intelligence agencies being extremely interested in, MPD and DID. They're interested in this shit.
And let's not look past the fact of ritual sacrifice. These people, whether you believe it or not, they believe it gives them power. And I mean, I don't know, but for me, looking around, it looks like it fucking does because they control the entire fucking world. So it's something that needs to be brought to the attention of people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And some people might, ask us, why are we looking into these things or why would we want to? Well, we don't really want to. And this goes into the question I'd been wanting to ask you, John, basically to close this video out with, this stream, I should say. I look into these things because I think that we need to understand the depravity of these people that truly rule over us. It's like Nietzsche, he's one of his most famous quotes is, if you are gazing into the abyss, eventually the abyss will start to gaze into you.
Yep.
And, looking at this stuff, nowadays whenever I first started watching Didymus's videos where he was touching on this, and I took his word, I read this document that we are now reading. At first I was just mind blown, furious, felt enraged because, and then it's, you have a feeling of kind of hopelessness. It's like, what do you do about this shit? What can we actively do to fight it? And I think it's important for us to look into the abyss, even though, it's disgusting and it's depraved and it's, evil. I think evil is a term that's thrown around a bit too loosely, but there is nothing more depraved or evil, in my opinion, than what we've been discussing here.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important to highlight. That's why it's so important to talk about this, because this seems so abstract, right? It's one of those things that everybody knows about, but it's thrown into the back of their mind because it seems like one of those things that, just isn't really vividly real in their mind. Does that make sense? And that's why I think it's important to cover this stuff and point out the fact of, like I said, whether you believe it or not, point out the fact that these people are engaged in openly satanic rituals. They say that themselves. This isn't something that someone made up. These are known Satanists, and we need to shine a light on that because a lot of people will throw it to the side, like they'll say it's just it's hedonism, right? They're the rich and the powerful. So no, this isn't.
This ain't typical hedonism. I know hedonism.
Exactly.
I mean, I used to be a drug addict. I used to do a lot of meth. I've been in and out of jail. I know what hedonism is. This ain't fucking this ain't fucking hedonism.
Exactly.
This is something else. Like the question that I wanted to pose to you, John, and we could talk for a few minutes about this, is how do we fight this shit? How can you, what can we do? You know, well, that's why I wanted to focus a lot on Jean-Pierre Van Rossem in this stream. This guy wanted to do something. He wanted to expose this. He wanted to tear it down. He was an anarchist, after all, you could say. He's seen the depraved shit, and according to what X2 had said, possibly he was at one of these depraved parties that went on at one of the palaces. Now, we see how Van Rossem approached the problem. He tried to infiltrate it and what we could call, subverting the subverters. That's, I don't know if that phrase is really applicable here. We've seen what he tried to do. But you understand, all of us should understand, if you wanted to try to infiltrate this thing, I mean, you're going to be putting your soul at hazard, like Tommy Lee Jones said at the beginning of No Country for Old Men. You are putting your soul, I believe, at hazard by doing these things. And, of course, he wanted to go in there and be able to obtain a Snuff film. He managed to get the Snuff film. He wanted to go experience, but of course, he got cold feet right at the end, right at the last minute. He backed out. As anyone, and I don't fault the guy in the least for that. I mean, he went further than, I would be, much, much further than I would ever be willing to go, What do you think is the way?
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
That's the hard thing about this, right? Because, there isn't like a local pedophile building, right, that you can go to and act on, right? And not to be like saying that you should, but I'm just saying that if in order to expose this, you have to enter into it. That's the only fucking way to do it, right? That's the only way to expose it or even find out who these people are.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to insert yourself into it, and where it goes from there, I don't really know that I could talk about, you know what I mean? Because I don't have any faith in the state. I think fear is the only cure for this, right? Just absolute terror, being terrified of the consequences. And I don't know. I don't want to say too much.
I personally don't care, man. One thing I think, and a lot of the stuff that I'm probably about to say here, some people will think it's a Fed post or whatever. I don't see it that way in the least. Violence solves problems. It always has.
Especially these kind of problems. It
always will. And, I hate it. I hate it when more prominent voices on our side, John. It makes me cringe. I hate using the word cringe because it's so fucking overused.
It's a meme, yeah.
But it's like whenever I hear a prominent, what you could say, influencer or leader on our side say that they disavow some act of violence, it's like, personally, to me, it's like hearing fingernails scraping on a fucking chalkboard.
Yes, it drives me up the wall too. That's why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's why I told that fucking Packy chick last night. Like, look, if you think you're going to get me to back off of violence, you got the wrong fucking dude, because I know that is sometimes necessary. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that, force may have to be used, right? I'm not the guy you're looking for to shy away from that shit, because I live in reality, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I don't think any of this situation regarding all of these the Dutroux Affair, regarding the Presidio child abuse case, Franklin child abuse, the McMartin school incident, all of these cases, Pizzagate, to go more modern, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, none of these problems are going to be solved until there is literally total revolution, total destruction of the system. And not only that, but total victory on our part. I don't know how. Oh, go ahead. I was
going to say, and that's what has to happen. No, you didn't. I was jumping in a little early, but that's what has to happen. There's nothing redeemable about this this state. There's nothing redeemable about this system. There is not a single part of it that is worth keeping around. It has to be
It
torn down.
isn't.
It's fucking disgusting. There is not a single thread of this disgusting system that is worth preserving. It all has to burn.
I mean, it does, and it's a harsh reality. This is something that, I mean, we'll look at it this way. All of us here, we're talking about this. We're trying to raise awareness. And that's good and that's important. And no, I'm not condoning anyone to go, go do something crazy. But I've come to the realization that it's inevitable. I mean, we're either going to continue laboring under this. A percentage of the population is going to have their children kidnapped, and God knows what happens to them. Or we're going to have, degenerate families such as the ones we've described, continuously procreating and putting their children through it. Their children will grow up, put their children through it. It's just, it's...
Well, I mean, and think about this. Think about the lighter side of it. Let's take children out of it, and let's just talk about public degeneracy in general.
Yes.
In 5 fucking years, it is not going to be out of the norm to see in your local metropolitan area to see some fucking disgusting homosexual like walking his gay partner down the street on like a dog leash.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the type of shit that we allow in this system, and it's protected all the way to the top. And that's why there's no saving it, man.
There is none. It's like I said, it don't matter what route we go. Really, we're either just going to continue laboring under this system, being parasitized by it, not only just, financially, whatever. It's as Brian Frakes said, when the host dies, so does the parasites. That's what he said in the chat. Very good point, Brian.
That's it. 100%.
But yeah, I've just come to the realization, that violence and, it's inevitable. If we want to destroy this system, if we want out from under the system, we know what has to be done. We can't talk about it here. And I'm not.
Well, and it's happening to us every day.
Oh, yeah.
Violence happens to our people every fucking day in this country and in this world, for that matter. Extreme violence against us physically, mentally, and emotionally. We are completely under attack.
Yes, and I thoroughly believe this. If violence is done to you, you dish it right back out. You don't sit there and take it. I've gotten so tired of seeing like videos where our guys post stuff, of black people beating up on white people. I'm tired of seeing that. We don't know what the score is. I'm tired of this victimization thing. It's, like I said, I mean, I'd rather be dishing out violence any day than handing it,
being on the receiving end of it.
Yeah,
exactly, dude. Straight the fuck up, dude. I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I know. But anyway, that was just the question that I thought of the other day whenever thinking about this string. John, you got any last words you want to say? Anything at all?
No, man. Just thanks for hanging out, guys. And Southern Nordic, thank you for having me on. I really enjoy, dude. Every fucking show I've done with you has been an absolute banger, dude. I absolutely love shooting the shit with you, man. So
dude, I love it too, man. I'd be interested in talking to you much more, just personally, not on a show. I like to. You seem like someone that I could totally shoot the shit with and absolutely enjoy myself while doing.
Yeah, so. we're gonna like meet IRL this year for sure. That's going.
To
happen. Yeah, because I got plans to meet up with Husifer again and all that shit, and I'll probably have another thing in my house, so we'll cross paths this year for sure.
Oh yeah, we will absolutely. I think Husifer is going to come down here and visit me here in a couple of weeks or so. It's important, I think, to yeah, he is. I love Husifer. I had an absolute blast with him. His family's farm and the horses they have up there, absolutely beautiful. Anyways, anything else at all, John? Anything else at all? Oh, John, I wanted to put your Odyssey channel link in the chat.
I'll throw it in there, Bo. I'll throw it in there.
Throw it in there? Hell yeah. Yeah, do that, man, because I don't have access, or I've got so many fucking windows open right now, I'd probably fuck something up.
Yeah. I need somebody to please go follow me on fucking Odyssey. Just one person. I'm at 666 followers.
I seen that.
Let's get that the fuck out
just earlier. Yeah, let's get that elitist satanic
Holy
number.
Shit.
off there. Let's get our boy to 667.
Yeah, at least. Fuck, I don't ask for much.
I noticed that earlier, like about an hour before we set the stream up and started streaming. I looked at your page. I was like, holy shit, he's got that fucking number. God, give him a sub, somebody. Shit. All right, John. I greatly appreciate you coming on. We will hopefully try to do this again within the next 2-3 weeks or so, whenever you got time. Like I said, we could probably do, I'm thinking 4 or 5 streams if we were to actually go through and read and, dot all the I's and cross all the T's. We could get a lot of material out of this.
Fuck yeah, dude. And it's interesting as shit, man. We haven't, honestly, I don't even think we've got into the interesting part. We've just been covering the brutality. We haven't even got into the real interesting shit, in my opinion.
I think the most interesting stuff is, the connections through the elites and its connections through Operation Gladio.
Yeah.
You got that link. You threw that link in the chat, John. Slow Burn. Hey, Slow Burn. Thank you for coming by. He's got a really big BitChute channel, actually. You got that link to throw in the chat, John?
For my show? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, did you get it thrown in?
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if it's
in the YouTube chat, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let me see.
Sweet.
I'm on the. Damn it. Let me close it out of it. Well, I can't access. I've got the StreamYard chat open, but I've not got the YouTube page open. I don't see it over here. I don't see it yet.
There it is in StreamYard. I posted it twice in the YouTube chat.
Oh, let's see. Okay, I've got it here. I'm going to post it. You sent it to me in the private chat.
Yeah. Other than that, guys, man, just, man, take care of yourselves and take care of each other, man. One people, one struggle.
Hell yeah. John, thank you so much again for coming by. I've had an absolute blast. And like I said, we will do this here soon. Okay, we've got you in the chat. Anyways, John, hope you have a wonderful evening. Have a good week. And we'll do this again soon. We'll be in touch, all right?
Yep, I'll talk at you, Bubba. Take care, man.
All right, you
Bye,
too.
chat.
Bye-bye. Guys, I want to thank everybody that has stopped by. Slow Burn, good to see you. Brian Frakes, Manifest Destiny, Rick. I'm tickled to death that Didymus stopped by and Based Cat Enjoyer. It was really good to see FedEx Me Your Drugs make a brief appearance. Anyway, guys, I hope y'all have a wonderful evening. I hope you're not demoralized by this stream because, even though the shit is extremely immoral, evil, and demoralizing, I think it's important we look at such things. And, I consider it, hate fuel, for lack of a better word. Because, if you do not hate the system after learning these things, I think you need to examine yourself and examine your morality. Anyways, guys, I've got, I think, an interesting stream coming up here in a couple of days. I've got a guy who is practically off the grid who's going to come on here. He has an extremely large YouTube channel. I'm really amazed that he actually even found my channel. His channel is called WCAM Studios. I think Friday, tentatively, we're going to get together and have a conversation about a variety of things. So hopefully, if y'all are free then, stop by, or it'll be on YouTube. I'd like to thank you all again for coming by, and hope y'all have a good evening. Thank y'all for stopping by, and remember to love your own, take care of your own, and that this is the way. Bye-bye.